Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Day Chats of the 2021 new year. I am so excited for this new year. Like I mentioned in the last episode, there's so many new things that I wanted to try out, and I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you guys are ready for this ride. I am sure this is going to be so much fun, so much learning, so much more exposing ourselves, because I have so much to share, but nonetheless, we will get to that. Let's just take a moment to talk about how our new year was. This year was definitely a little different. We weren't able to congregate like we normally do. But I hope you all still had a nice, relaxing new year. I know I literally didn't do anything. I went to church and then I came home, and by the time that I got home, it was so cold. So I changed into some comfortable clothes, wrapped myself up in throw blankets, and then I hung out with my mom and we watched the Disney movie Soul. My mom made some beans and we were literally eating refried black beans with chips, and that is what we did for the new year. I ended up falling asleep by 11:30, woke up at 12:20, a little bummed that, I didn't make it till midnight, but that's fine. It was still a good night nonetheless. My sense of time is really warped right now because I've been home for the past 2 weeks. I've been working from home and I just feel like I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. Like every day since Christmas felt like a Friday or like a Saturday. And so now that it's actually Sunday, I have to prepare my stuff to go back to work tomorrow, Monday. And so in my mind, the new year officially won't start until tomorrow, because that's when I can finally get back into the groove of my routine and doing things at a specific time, because honestly, it's just so hard to be in a routine when you're home. So for those of you who are out here killing it or finding some kind of routine that works for you while you're home, mad props to you, because I was struggling these 2 weeks. But nonetheless, let's get on to the new episode. So I wanted to kick off this new year by setting up our intentions of what it is that we want to do. And in the last episode, I talked about how I wanted to go on this journey, and I invited you all to join this journey with me of learning to love yourself completely, being comfortable with who you are and being accepting of you as a person without needing any validation from someone else. And I think an important way to do that is by knowing what your love language is. Not only so you know how to communicate that with someone else, but also know how you can learn to love yourself through your love languages and see how you could use that information to help you along your self-love journey. What better way to start the new year than truly learning and trying to understand what our love languages are. Some of you may already know what the love languages are. Some of you may have already heard of it, but maybe aren't too familiar with it. And some of you may have no idea what I'm even talking about. So I'm going to break this down into layman's terms to make it very easy to understand. It's just going to be a brief overview about what the love languages are. And with each episode, we will divulge and talk about what each love language is. So today we're going to talk about what love languages even are, why they're useful, how you can implement them. And we're also going to talk about the first primary love language, which is words of affirmation. But before we get started, I wanted to start a new challenge that I invite you all to take a part of with me. So there's this user on TikTok, his username is KebelFeb, who I came across, and he started doing this gratitude challenge. So every day he will post a video talking about one thing that he's grateful for. And I think that's amazing. I think it's a great way to start the new year, is to take into account the little things that we're grateful for. It doesn't always have to be something big. It could be the little small things. So I invite you all to join me, take a part of this challenge, and talk about or mention one thing that you're grateful for. So you can expect that on each episode, I will mention at least one thing that I am grateful for. And I think it's just a great overall thing that we could do to spread a little bit more positivity and just be a little more mindful of the good things that happen around us. So to kick off the gratitude challenge, today, what I'm most grateful for is my relationship with my parents. I'm very grateful that I have a good relationship with them and that over the years it's gotten better. And I think it's a really great thing to have, considering that I'm an only child. So really the only family I have for my immediate family is my parents. So starting off the new year with this gratitude challenge, that is what I'm most grateful for this week. So now let's talk about what this episode is even about. And that is learning your love languages. So let's talk about what the love language even is. So according to the author and marriage counselor Gary Chapman, there are 5 different love languages. Each of these love languages describe how we receive love from others. And the 5 love languages are words of affirmation. So that's saying supportive and encouraging words to your partner, using words to uplift them. Acts of service, which is doing helpful things for your partner. Receiving gifts, which is giving your partner gifts that tell them you were thinking about them. And this doesn't always have to be something big. It can be something as small as you go to the gas station and you see their favorite candy, so you pick it up for them, or you see their favorite chips. Just doing something small and giving them a tangible object to show them that you love them. The next one is quality time. So spending meaningful, uninterrupted time with your partner. Doesn't mean you have to do anything crazy or lavish. Just sitting there together, knowing that that person has your undivided attention. And the last one being physical touch, being close to and caressed by your partner. And again, this doesn't have to be sexual. This can be something as simple as putting your hand on their knee or holding their hand when you're speaking to them, so they know that you are taking the time to truly listen to what they're saying or truly give them your time and attention when you're speaking to them. Each of us requires a little bit of each of the love languages. However, depending on who you are as a person and how you like to receive love, you could very possibly just require more of one than the others. For instance, today we will be focusing on words of affirmation. So if words of affirmation is your love language, then you are going to value and love and receive love more when your partner or your friend or your parent tells you and verbally communicates with you how much they love you. That's not to say that you won't appreciate if they do something for you, but something as small as getting a good morning text in the morning or a good night text at night will make your day brighter and make you feel like they are showing you how much they truly care and love you. So why are love languages even important? Why do we need to know, or why should we know how we receive love? Well, psychologists concluded that the need of feeling loved is a primary human emotional need. So we all need and require to feel loved in order to fill up our love tanks. In order for us to build valuable and emotional connections with people, we need to be able to feel loved. And in order to do that, we need to be able to identify how it is that we receive love, because everybody receives love so differently. That's not to say that people don't love you if you have different love languages, but it just means that the way that people express and receive love can be different. Therefore, being able to identify what your love language is and being able to communicate that with the person that you're wanting to communicate that with can just overall clear a lot of miscommunication that can happen when it comes to expressing love. So like I mentioned, we all have what we call a love tank. And this is something that Gary Chapman describes in his book, The 5 Love Languages. And this is how one of my college professors explained to us when we first learned about what love languages are. So everybody has what we call a love tank. So this is what needs to be filled in order for us to feel loved. If you think about it, it's like a gas tank in your car. When it runs empty, you need to fill it up with gas or else it's just not going to work anymore. That's how we are. We need to make sure we are filling up our love tanks and that others around us are able to fill up our love tanks properly in order for us to function and feel the best that we can. And I want to make a quick disclaimer before we go any further. I'm not saying that it is other people's job to make us feel loved. And I'm not saying that we can only feel loved if other people love us. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm also not a relationship coach, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But what I am saying that it is important for us to feel loved, and it is important for us to know how we want to be loved and how we enjoy feeling loved. It is important to know what are our love languages so we know how to fill up that love tank, whether it's by receiving love from someone else or giving that love to ourselves. So now that you've briefly learned about what the 5 languages are, why they're important to know, and learned a little bit about what a love tank is, I challenge you to ask yourself, on a scale from 0 to 10, how full is your love tank? Ask yourself that question, take a moment to pause this, and truly think about it. All right, I hope you were able to answer that question, and regardless of where you are at, just know that you could use that as a reference point if it's low, or even if it's high, just use that as a reference point to see how you can move forward from that. So today we're going to be talking about words of affirmation. Personally, this is my main love language, so I can resonate with this a lot. So words of affirmation is expressing your love by using words that build up. So it's giving verbal compliments or words of appreciation to fill up your partner's or someone's love tank. And I would love to reiterate once again, this doesn't have to be just for a romantic partner. This could be for a friendship or a parent relationship as well. It could be something platonic or it could be something romantic. So just keep that in mind. Someone whose primary love language is words of affirmation is going to hold on and value when someone tells them and verbally expresses how they love that person. So for instance, I will use myself as an example. I love reassurance, and I love when someone will tell me and verbally express how they feel about me. Whether they tell me, hey, I really like this about you, or I really appreciate this, I appreciate that, whatever it may be. It could be something long or it could be something small. Little things like that really just hit home for me and just make me feel the most loved. A few examples of verbal compliments or words of appreciation could be, you are so beautiful. You are so handsome. You look fantastic in that suit. I appreciate you cooking dinner. I love that you can always make me smile. So verbal compliments go a long way rather than nagging words. So if the person that you are with, or maybe yourself, value words of affirmation, then something that can bring you down a lot could very well be nagging words, because that would be the opposite of words of affirmation. It could be, you never do this, you never do that, I hate that you do this. Words like that are the contrary of words of affirmation. So if this is your primary love language, you may find that nagging words such as those sentences may cause you a lot of turmoil, or may possibly make you feel bad about yourself, or make you feel like that person doesn't genuinely see who you are or appreciate who you are. And again, take that with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that if someone says that they don't love you. I'm just saying it could very well be that you may interpret it a certain way along those lines. So for instance, if your partner loads the dishes for you or puts some gas in your car and their primary love language is words of affirmation, something you could do instead of saying, oh, it's about time you did the dishes, it's about time you did something nice, rather than saying that, you could say, I really appreciate what you did for me. I really appreciate for you taking the time to put gas in my car. That for them will mean so much more than the nagging words, which yes, I mean, who would appreciate if somebody were to tell them in general, like, oh, it's about time you did this. But more specifically, someone whose love language is primarily words of affirmation is going to appreciate the notion of verbally expressing your appreciation, your gratitude, and your love for that person. Another way that you can express your love verbally, if your partner's primary love language is words of affirmation, is by using words of encouragement. And words of encouragement are also a great form of expressing your love. And it's important to know that this requires empathy and being able to see your partner's point of view. So this definitely requires you to be able to take a step into their shoes and see how they view themselves and see how they view the world. That way, when you give them words of encouragement, they know that you've taken the time to see and value their efforts and what they're doing, and they truly feel that you believe in them. So the overall message is that if your partner's primary love language is words of affirmation, you being able to verbally express how you care about them and how you appreciate them is going to mean a lot to your partner. But now that we've talked about how this can manifest in a romantic or platonic relationship, let's talk about how this can manifest or how you can implement this when it goes to loving yourself. If words of affirmation is your primary love language, how can you implement that to give yourself the love that you're wanting to receive? Because we need to be able to provide that love for ourselves. And I challenge you to ask yourself, if you do know what your primary love language is, are you loving yourself in that love language? Oftentimes in general, we don't give ourselves the love that we need, but let alone love ourselves in the love language that we are desiring or that we're wanting. So if words of affirmation is your primary love language, how can you give yourself that love? Some of the things that I've thought of are honestly, and depending on who you are, sometimes a little uncomfortable. But I find that little by little, it's truly making a difference in how I see myself and how I'm loving myself. And like I said, we don't all just have one primary love language. We all have a little bit of all of them. So as we get on to the other ones, there are different examples that I'm going to provide when it comes to being able to love yourself. But for words of affirmation, something that I feel has really helped is journaling. Journaling has helped a lot. It has given me the opportunity to truly think about how I'm feeling, whether it's about a situation, a person, or even myself. Truly think about what I'm feeling and being able to write it out. Or even sometimes not even writing it out. Sometimes I will just sit there and record myself talk, like on the voice recorder app on my phone. I will just sit there and record myself, just have a moment and just talk about how I'm feeling and talk about what's going on in my head. And I find that doing that helps me not only understand how I'm feeling and be able to grasp with the emotions that I'm feeling in the moment, but also allow myself to just take a breather and allow myself to vent. And as someone who struggles with venting with other people, it is so helpful and so comforting to know that I can be as open and as vulnerable as possible and just share that with my phone or share that with the journal. And I don't actually have to subject myself to another person knowing what I'm thinking about, which is another problem for another day, but that is something that has helped. Another thing that is so uncomfortable for me to do, but actually has made such a difference in my mentality is affirmations. Positive affirmations about myself. I know that I love when someone tells me things like, you're so smart, you're so hardworking, you're very ambitious, I look up to you, or I admire how hardworking you are. Things like that. I know those things make me feel good when people tell me. So I need to start telling myself these things because ultimately I need to be able to provide and fill my own love tank. So if I know that words of affirmation are what fill up my love tank, I need to be able to provide that for myself. So I've started writing out and literally looking at myself in the mirror. And I only do this once a day because any more than that is just too uncomfortable for me right now. So, it's a process, but I will look at myself in the mirror and I will say out loud one positive affirmation that I believe. I am not a fan of affirmations that you don't actually genuinely believe in. I just feel like you're lying to yourself. Like to an extent, yeah, fake it till you make it, but also say things that you actually believe in or that you want to believe in, not things that you don't believe in at all. If you don't love your body, don't sit there and say, I am in love with my body, because you don't. You're going to feel like a fraud. You're going to feel like you even yourself can't believe it. And personally, I feel like that's counterintuitive. You can say something that you actually believe in, like, I love what my body does for me. My body keeps me alive. My body keeps me healthy. My body keeps me safe. That is much more believable and much more doable, in my opinion, than saying I love my body if you don't actually love your body. But I digress. Positive affirmations is something that, like I said, can be very uncomfortable, but also very necessary, because we need to be able to set up this example for ourselves and treat ourselves with the kindness that we want and we desire. We oftentimes are so hard on ourselves. And like I said, If your main love language is words of affirmation, then nagging words, since that's the contrary of words of affirmation, is going to deplete you of your energy. So why is it that you are nagging on yourself? Why are you giving yourself the destruction that you don't want others to give you? I leave you with that to think about. We need to start recognizing what our love languages are and learning to love ourselves in those love languages. We need to be able to fill up our love tank and also be able to receive the love that other people are giving us and communicate how we want to be loved. This new 2021 year, we are no longer going to accept mediocre love or accept any miscommunication in our love life. We need to be able to be clear and communicate what our expectations are and how we want to be loved. And not only that, we need to be able to receive love both from other people and ourselves. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed this first episode of learning about your love languages. Stay tuned for next week because we'll be talking about quality time and acts of service. So that will be another really fun episode. Until next time, embrace the day.